Oh boy. It's getting to the point where I think breaking point is coming. Because the moment you taste meat after so long, there's only so many things around you that can satiate you in the exact same way. But, wait a minute, and welcome. My name is Yuusha, and welcome back to the Fruit of Grisaia. This is now part 44. 44! It's still going strong. I want to continue with this. I know that this Let's Play is probably going to take me, I don't know, probably another year to complete, because this game is massive, and there's also the Eden of Grisaia, and the Labyrinth of Grisaia, and also the Chido Shirimichiru spin-offs, and possibly even in the future, the Phantom Trigger spin-off games, which I would love to thoroughly enjoy. But anyway, let me just take a quick sip of my drink. For this video, of course, it's going to be the same Decavita C that I've always had. I need my vitamin C because fruits and veg in Japan are so expensive. But anyway, moving on from that, it's about time we got started. So guys, ikimashouka. Recently, just standing upright was exhausting. It wasn't rare for someone to spend the majority of the day lying in their sleeping bag. Even when we attempted to move, it would often prove impossible. Every time we tried to stand, our joints would scream in pain. If we pulled ourselves upright by clinging to a tree or rock, our knees would be shaking so hard that we could barely walk. Oh my god, it's like a newborn giraffe. Even so, as the sun rose and warmed the valley, those who could still move came crawling out of their tents, basking in the rays of morning light. We resembled nothing so much as a lethargic pack of iguanas escaped from the Galapagos Islands. I mean, that's Ew. For some reason, it felt as though the mere touch of the sun on our skin gave us some small boost of energy. What are you, plants? But then again, the sun does give you vitamin D. But if you have too much vitamin D, that can also be unhealthy. Of course, it was mostly an illusion. Our stomachs were still empty. But either way, moving around aimlessly would be a waste of calories. So we all found our seats in the sun and kept still. It was tempting to just flop down on the spot and close your eyes. But the cold stone beneath us stole body heat quickly, so lying down would burn a surprising amount of energy. Wow, oh god. Staying awake and sitting quietly was the best way to conserve our strength. We sat on the hard ground as if rooted to the spot, unable to do anything but silently agonize over our individual fates. I've got to do something. How can I survive this? The thought churned endlessly around our heads, but merely focusing on our nourishment-starved brains on a question took all our effort. Actually producing an answer was beyond our power. And yet, even now, we were still human beings. We still hadn't broken the absolute minimum rules. Wow, Kazuki sounds weak. At my side, Kazuki murmured those words to herself slowly and deliberately, as if confirming that she was still firmly conscious, still able to speak. Well, we've been here for 2 weeks. We need to do something. The teacher ain't coming back. I followed her gaze around the area. Everyone was staring goggle-eyed into the distance, their pale, slack faces shining greasily in the morning sun. There was something dangerous in the air. Given a small push in the wrong direction, it felt as though even our humanity would instantly crumble underneath us. Oh, it's gonna come. Who's gonna be the first to snap? Ooh. Huh?
今なんて弟の名前よ。風見裕二。そう。それが私の弟の名前。会ってみたいな。
Oh, trust me, Amane, you will.
生きて帰ることができたら紹介してあげるわ。きっと気に入るはずよ。楽しみだな。きっ とだよ。ええ、約束するわ。
She somehow kept it. Aww. Oh, that makes me happy. But sad at the same time. That afternoon, Mr. Ochi returned from his escape attempt to rejoin us on our gradual passive slide toward death. He didn't do anything, did he? He was completely emaciated. His sunken eyes were as dark and hollow as those of a wild animal. For more than lamenting his failure, the group was overjoyed at his return. I see. He failed. Never mind, he did come back. But he done nothing. He accomplished nothing. We were back to the drawing board yet again. That was a heavy, if somewhat abstract, disappointment. Even so, the return of our only adult male was no small relief. Oh god! Oh god, he looks like a right zombie now. Not to say that our teacher's presence caused any dramatic changes in the situation. As always, we were desperately short of food. If anything, practically speaking, Mr. Ochi's return translated to nothing more than another mouth to feed, worsening our already meagre daily rations. Pretty much, we gave him half the food as well. So that means we basically gave up half of our food for naught. In reality. As harsh as it is to say, but he failed. That evening, having entered a large tent to check up on the wounded, I noticed that Hiroka-san had quietly stopped breathing. Oh shit. Hiroka's... Oh! Wait. Hiroka-san finally passed away. I knew she'd be one of the first to go. Dang it. 2 weeks after Shikanai, Ozawa and Okabe's death, we had our fourth casualty. Hiroka-san had died lying in the sleeping bag in which she'd spent the last 14 days of her life, her eyes and mouth half open. It was a gruesome sight, but there wasn't any real agitation among us. We all kind of knew, unfortunately. We had all been prepared for this, even expecting it. Shut up, Dad Cicadas, you're bloody noisy! Bloody hell. I was no exception. Rather than grieving the death of my friend, I gazed down at a corpse in a stupor. A single thought was swirling relentlessly through my dull mind. When a living thing dies, it becomes food. Oh god. Yep, here we go. The humanity. Our humanity is going. Don't tell me we're going to be the first to become a cannibal, are we? Kazuki had said that was only natural. So, does that go for her too? I wasn't the only one suspecting as much, without a doubt. The others were thinking the exact same thing. At some point, all eyes had turned toward our teacher. But Mr. Ochi said only, I'll dig the grave, quietly bringing his hands together in front of Hiroka-san's corpse. What had I been thinking? Of course we were burying her. A human being eating another human being? It's unforgivable. No matter what. Even if it means surviving. Ooh. Who's gonna be first to snap is now my question. We must have been going a little soft in the head. Right, our friend had died, and we were upset. We lost our heads from the shock, that was all. And no, you were thinking hunger. Our shoulders sagged to learn our stomachs would go unfilled, but all the same, we heaved sighs of relief. You've still got some humanity left. Without a single word of objection, we silently watched Mr. Ochi walk down into the forest to bury Hiroka's remains. I don't know. You did say he was starting to look like an animal, of sorts. Is he really going to bury Hiroka, I wonder? That's what's worrying me right now, because I don't think he is. I'm vile. I'm a vile, disgusting excuse for a human being. The shame welled up so suddenly and so heavily inside me that I couldn't contain my tears. Lowering myself shakily down onto the hard ground, I broke into wretched, violent sobs. And it's the next day. 5:45. Bang, bang, bang. The 15th day in the valley. That was a quick 14th day and Hiroka-san died. Jesus. First we've had the dog god, now we've got the girl with the broken legs that is now dead. So who's going to be next? It's either the next thing that's going to happen is either somebody else is going to die, or somebody else is going to snap, or someone's going to snap. And I think if somebody would die next, it would probably be Sakurai, because of her wound being infected and not going away. But the first one to snap, I'm thinking could be... I think it's already Ibuki. I think she's already snapped. I was awake, but I couldn't even open my eyes. My head felt packed to the bursting with dull, heavy lead. Every inch of my body was painfully cold and exhausted, to the point that even breathing was difficult. There was a drop of saliva in my mouth, and the back of my throat burned bitterly. I couldn't even speak. Oh God, This morning, Kazuki seemed to be in a similar shape. When I finally managed to force my eyelids up just a sliver, I could vaguely see her lying perfectly still on the other side of the tent, curled up like a cat. That's worrying, because she always manages to get up at 5:45 to bang the thing, and she can't do it. Hold on. I'd always admired her strength, wondered how she'd trained that tiny body to be so unbelievably tenacious, but it seemed that even her amazing endurance was reaching its limits. No, she's probably long since passed those limits, but if Kazuki were to collapse, we would have lost a large source of hope. Without her, some of us might have long since given up, stopped even trying to survive. Pretty true. Kazuki had probably been pushing herself unreasonably for our sake, forcing herself to appear energetic and powerful. She looks so very small right now. She's tiny. She's below 5 foot, isn't she? I hoarsely croaked out her name. There was no response. No, don't say that. My arm had grown painfully thin, but it still felt heavy as I reached out toward my friend's back. She was still warm. I could feel her back rising and falling ever so slightly with her breathing. She was still alive. My tear-filled voice finally elicited a response from Kazuki. Her tone, understandably, was exceptionally grouchy. Oh God. Don't tell me we're actually gonna cannibalize someone. Kazuki's words abruptly brought back the memories of Hiroka-san's death, and my breath caught in my throat. Kazuki responded to my heartfelt whimpering with a snuffling little laugh. Nice. But yeah, that scares me. That yet alone. She wasn't going to die just yet, but eventually that time would come. Everything living dies. Another rule of nature, the most fundamental of all. That inevitable end was no longer an abstract, distant concept for us. Our deliberation had reached the final stages. One by one, we were wasting away. Yeah, and Sakurai-senpai and Komori-san were... Oh! 2 people died? Oh shit! Oh! Oh, I was wrong! For one. I was wrong for one. But Sakurai and Komori... The blue-haired girl's now dead. The freaking dog owner's dead. And the beauty girl's dead. We are really, really going down in numbers now. Sakurai died from her sepsis. Oh, yeah. Komori killed her. Oh. Easy way out. It's probably because I think seeing her dog go was the final thing. No. Her dog dying was the first step. Eating her dog was the second. The final one had to be Hiroka dying. Because she must have thought, if she's gone, I'm probably next. And just did it. Fuck. Numb as we grown to horror, the suicide center disturbed a ripple through the camp. But after the initial shock passed, we felt little more than resigned acceptance. Since eating her dog's flesh, Komori had clearly been mentally unstable and physically frail. Even before her sudden collapse yesterday, we had all seen her acting strangely. Yeah, so she was already too far gone. This is getting very, very serious now. She would totter off alone into the forest, then wander around calling loudly for Alione. Oh. Oh, my heart. And back at camp, she pushed her useless battery-dead cell phone against her ear and held extended conversations with her dead. Oh God! Yeah, she was already on death's door. Everyone had felt vaguely apprehensive about her bizarre behaviour, but there was nothing we could do for her. Yeah, how do you help someone like that in this situation? When the laboured breathing of a girl sitting nearby grew faint as a whisper, the thought of, another one's dying, would pass through our minds, but we didn't feel sorry or pity. They were luxuries we could no longer afford. When Miss Dolce carried each new corpse into the forest to bury it, the only thought we could muster was, one less mouth to feed. Which isn't wrong. It isn't wrong, but even I don't want to think like that. Cold-hearted, cruel thoughts. But we no longer had even the strength to hate ourselves for them. Well, no, that's called survival instinct, I guess, or natural thinking for the circumstances. The terror of watching your friends die one after another. The terror that you might be next. The escalating terror of our reality overwhelmed us, and some began to escape from it entirely. Drunk on the adrenaline our brains secreted to numb the agonizing fear. Our thoughts lurched in bizarre, irrational directions. I don't want to die. If somebody dies in my place, maybe I'll survive. Without any logic or evidence, many have begun to believe something of the sort. That inside this ravine, one life could somehow be traded for another. That sounds like cannibal talk to me. If somebody else dies, I'll live. In this claustrophobic little world, there's nothing where nothing enters or leaves. The total amount of well-being must be fixed. Depriving another of their happiness is the only path to survival. That was the new dogma of the dying. Excuse me? Jesus! That day, the only ones with enough energy to do more than sit limply on the ground, cursing, were Mr. Ochi and the captain. Since Mr. Ochi's return the previous afternoon, the two of them had made numerous trips to forage for food on behalf of those who could no longer move. They even cooked meager meals of weeds and snails, then fed them to the weakened girls. They spoke words of encouragement as they spoon-fed the feeble, "Don't give up, you can't die." If those two hadn't been here, none of us would have made it past morning. The thought drove home just how useless I was in comparison, and tears welled up inside in my eyes. Man, this is really depressing. Several times since Miss Ochi's return, the two had even managed to capture a few animals deep in the forest. Little chunks of venison and wild hare began to appear in standard weed soup. Girls who ate it slowly began to regain some of their vitality. That's people. That's people. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. If that was the case, and Miss Lorchie had been in the damn woods that whole time, why did he never bring any back if he was coming back anyway? Why is there now suddenly venison and wild hare? They are all red meats. Guess what? Humans have red meat. I'm not buying that shit. No, I know. They're feeding us the. Oh no, they're feeding us humans. They're feeding us the dead students who'd literally just passed away. We're all gonna become cannibals. Holy shit. Oh no.
和樹、お肉だよ。ほら、久しぶり。私はいいわ。誰か他の子にあげて。
She knows. She knows.
どうして？
She knows.
部活に肉を食べると肝炎になるわよ。
Hepatitis? Oh
ちゃん
god.
と火を通してるから大丈夫だよ。私はまだ死にたくないし、生き残った後、苦しむのもごめんだわ。
By now, Captain Sakushito and Mr. Ochi were gathering the majority of the group's food, and Kazuki, whose sudden debilitation was so intense she had difficulty standing, had quickly and utterly lost the status she had gained among us since the fall. Everyone worshipped the captain like a god for providing food. Oh no. Oh no. And despite all that Kazuki had done for us up till now, no one expressed worry about her condition. Far from it. The looks they gave her clearly read, "Hurry up and die." Maybe she was resistant to the idea of accepting the Ascendant Captain's charity? No, that's not it. She knows what the meat is. Whatever the case, Kazuki absolutely refused to eat the meat her rival brought back from the forest. Idiotic pride for someone at death's door. But as irritated as I was, I couldn't betray or disobey Kazuki. I bitterly gave up our share of the meat, offering it to those who were even worse. We didn't eat it. Oh my god, we didn't eat it. Oh. 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 That night, I would come to understand I had made the correct choice in doing so. What do you mean that night? Excuse me? What, excuse me? A little before dawn, I woke to the rustling sound of someone moving around in the tent. Sluggishly forcing open my heavy eyelids, I strained to see what was going on.
Amane, 起きなさい.
Okay, this is getting serious. Oh.
Kazuki.
Is it time? It's time, isn't it? Kazuki rolled up her sleeping bag and packed all her belongings in the rucksack she normally used as a pillow. One hand clutching my shoulder, she slowly shook me awake.
何？どうしたの？
It's time. Still half asleep, I spoke more loudly than I had intended. Kazuki quickly drew a forefinger to her mouth and whispered a brief shh.
あれを見なさい.
Excuse you? Wait, what do you mean? Kazuki lifted the flap of the tent, slightly open, and I peered through to see that the captain and Miss Dolce walking off together into the dark. They were in on this! Oh shit, were they in on this?
何？部長と先生、どこへ行くの？知る必要はないわ。
No.
チャンスは今よ。ここを抜け出し
We're
ましょう。
going! It's time! It's time! It's time!
抜け出すってどういう？
Oh, it's time!
そのままの意味よ。この山を出て家に帰るの。もう助けなんか来ない。自力で脱出するのよ。
I didn't understand what she was talking about. I think I know why she's saying now she's glad that she didn't. Because I think now that they haven't eaten the meat, the fact that they've resorted to cannibalism means that now they won't probably have any qualms in killing anyone. Because they'll be seen as just food as long as they're dead. Oh. I didn't understand what she was talking about. Then words were clear enough, but the meaning just wouldn't register.
どうして今このタイミングで説明している時間がないのよ。できるだけ急いで支度を済ませて誰にも気づかれないように。
Come on. Now it's time to have the food ready. No. Kazuki fixed a deadly serious gaze directly on my eyes, and I faltered to a halt.
いい、アマネ。鬼は連れて行けない。
We can't take ghouls? What do you mean ghouls? Hold on.
わからないよ、カズキ。鬼ってどういう意味？
Oni? Demons? Hold on. Oni usually means demons. So... Oh no, they've snapped, haven't they?
知りたいのなら後で教えてあげる。いいから今は急ぎなさい。わかった。
Oh god, I'm scared. To be honest, I didn't have the first idea about what was going on. But Kazuki was never wrong. If Kazuki told me to leave, I would leave. That simple faith was guiding me now. I stuffed my possessions into the rucksack as quickly as I could in the dim tent. Barely waiting for me to finish, Kazuki impatiently grabbed my hand and pulled me along, quickly and quietly leading me out of the camp.
カズキ、どこへ行くの？静かについていらっしゃい。今全部見せてあげる。
She knows
見せる？
everything.
いい。決して大きな声を出してはダメよ。わかった？
Okay.
うん。
Okay, I'll go quietly, alright? Just what was she planning to show me? Clueless but obedient, I passively followed Kazuki down the valley and into the forest. We were retracing the steps of Mr. Ochi and Captain Sakashita. For some reason, that realization filled me with dread. Some instinct was whispering faintly, don't go any further. Don't take another step. Oh no, some truths are best left unseen. My skin tingled as though all the pores in my body had suddenly opened wide. You're telling me I've got goosebumps reading this? With every step, my heartbeat grew louder in my ears. Cold, sticky sweat settled unpleasantly in my armpits.
見てごらんなさい。
Whispering so softly, I could barely hear over the cries of the cicadas. Kazuki pointed through the thicket into the clearing beyond. Captain Sakashita and Mr. Ochi were inside. Wait, what? Oh, they're doing naughty stuff. Something was going on between them. Oh no. Illuminated by the faint moonlight that slipped through the cracks in the tree canopy, the captain's white skin shone vividly in the darkness. Her skirt and jacket were lying in a messy heap on the ground. She was right next to Mr. Ochi, standing on tiptoe to bring her face to his.
あの二人、こんな関係だったんだ。あなた、何を見ているの？周りをもっとよく見てごらんなさい。
What do you mean? I removed my glasses, carefully wiped the lenses with the cuff of my uniform, then put them back on. This time I noticed a number of strange, whitish lumps lying in the grass amid their scattered... What do you mean? At first glance they almost looked like oversized radishes covered in grime and dirt. What do you mean? But as my eyes adjusted to the faint light I realised that the black smudges were actually deep red. It's skin! It's skin and meat! Oh! Where fragments of a truth better left unseen. Oh no! You made a noise! You fool! You fool! You utter fool! No! Why? No! I couldn't contain my shriek. And before I had time to regret that mistake, tears were pouring out of my eyes. Bile was rising in my throat, and I was stumbling backward, falling to the ground. My shoulders quivered at the vicious shout, but I simply couldn't stand. My legs had turned to rubber. My eyes were fixated on the scene before me, the face of Mr. Ochi glaring in our direction with eyes like a demon's, and Captain Sakashita's lips stained a horrible shade of red. Were they feeding off of each other? They were eating each other! When I looked down, seeking escape from the awful sight, I noticed a silver bracelet in the grass nearby. Wait. Silver bracelet, silver bracelet. It was shining in the moonlight, so even with my poor vision, it wasn't hard to make out the name written on its plate. A Leone. It was Arkun's color. He ate. No. They ate the blue-haired girl. When the dog wasted away and died, Komori-san had coiled it around her wrist, which had to mean, no, you fool! No, you're gonna get away where you are! Oh, don't! Oh, no. A burning tide of gastric juices surged up in my throat. As I noisily vomited onto the ground, Kazuki grabbed me by the shoulder with we're going to run now. She forcibly dragged me to my feet. Disoriented, the taste of acid thick in my mouth, I let Kazuki pull me into a run. From behind, I heard the captain's snarling voice. Oh. The voice that had always encouraged me during practice. Firm but kind. Good hustle out there. The voice that had offers us all reassurance as she distributed the food. Don't give up. Captain Sakashita's voice was now militant, wasn't it? Oh! Yep, she snapped! The voice of a ghoul. This couldn't be. This had to be a dream. Why wasn't I waking up? This absolutely couldn't be real. As these thoughts swirled around my dazed mind, Kazuki hissed into my ears as if to slap me awake. So because I wasn't quiet, they're now gonna kill everyone. I clung tightly to Kazuki like a little girl terrified of being left behind by her mother. Just keep running! God damn it! There was nothing to do but run. If I were to succumb to the pull of madness and fall to the ground, my life would end. For now, I could only clutch Kazuki's hand and run into the dark heart of the forest, where the lights of the stars couldn't betray us. Okay, I stopped. It's fine. Suddenly, Kazuki raised her hand and barked a command. As I came to a halt, something moved slightly in the corner of my eye. A black shadow slowly emerged as if oozing out of the darkness. Is there a wire?
Yeah. こんな時間にどこへ行くんだい?
Oh no! They've all turned cannibal, haven't they? Oh no! What are you doing here, Sakuma? Halfway through my sentence, I noticed something odd about Sakuma's glassy gaze. Her eyes were focused on the rucksacks we were carrying, and her swollen face betrayed not surprise but suspicion. No. She's gonna try and kill us as well. Sakuma frowned her brow at Kazuki's words. She knew about it! Oh no! How long have they known? Oh! Come on, just run! She's gonna kill you, god damn it! Kazuki seized my backpack and practically forced me into a run. Okay. It's a left, got it! Honestly, I couldn't tell my left from my right at that moment, but Kazuki's grip stayed firm and we plunged into a short thicket, pushing our way through the grasping branches toward escape. Sakuma didn't pursue us. Instead, she spoke a few words. Her voice was like a whisper, but somehow it found its way all too clear. No, we're gonna hear it. No, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. No, this has gone full on horror mode. Sakuma-senpai had known? She had known what Sakashita and Ochi were doing. She had known everything and kept her silence.
ねえ葉月何質問なら後にしてちょうだい今は急いで
Yeah, run!
先輩は知っていたの葉月も気がついていたの知らなかったの私だけなんで教えてくれなかったの
Maybe because of the meet earlier.
ところで誰にも止められないこうなるのは必然だったのよ
Yeah, this conclusion would have happened either way.
いいやまねここにいるのはもう人間じゃない動物よ
Yeah. They are now animals willing to kill anything they see and eat it. But we're humans. In order for people to live as human beings, 3 basic rules need to be respected. Don't steal, don't steal, don't destroy, don't kill. And they are trying to kill. If when one collapses, when breaking, it becomes natural. It's only a matter of time till the other 2 give way. And when it comes to that, no one can stop the downhill slide. When people fall below the absolute minimum standard of humanity, they revert to a simpler, more primitive set of rules. Don't cry! No! They're gonna hear us!
泣かないで鬱陶しい
Kazuki quickly held her hand against my mouth, but the inevitably cruel reality was beyond my capacity to endure. It was far too sudden and far too strong a dose. I had to scream. If I didn't scream, the terror would tear me apart from the inside. Don't do it! Don't do it! Don't do it! We've been pushing our way through bushes and stands of trees to keep hidden from our pursuers, but there was no point if I was broadcasting our location. Pretty much. Kazuki pushed her hand firmly down, finally stifling my muffled shriek, and turned to face me. In the faint, pre-dawn light, the whites of Kazuki's unblinking eyes stood out powerfully against her mud-stained face. It was the harsh glare of a father dragged out of bed by a bawling toddler. Staring back into those steady eyes, I drew clipped, trembling breaths through my nose. In time, my cries faded against her palm.
いい子ねアマネ泣かなくていいのよ約束したでしょあなたは必ず私が助けるから何も心配はいらないのわかる
Everything just went to shit. Really quick. My throat was continuing to spasm convulsively. Probably because I'd stopped crying so suddenly. But despite everything else, the feeling of Kazuki's hand squeezing mine tightly was genuinely reassuring. You both are still human. Canada as well? Oh hell no! Canada's voice rang out in the darkness. No, you're trying to eat us. No! From the volume of her voice, she was no more than 20 or 30 meters away from the thicket where we crouched hidden. I looked back to Kazuki's face and spoke in a whisper. Oh, thank goodness. Yep.
鬼に飲み込まれたか騙されているのか脅されているのかどのみちあの人ももう引き返せない
They're all past the point of no return. The footsteps of the ghouls approached us from behind. If they caught us, would they kill us immediately or make us one of them? They would kill us. Simply they would kill us because we tried to run and not help them. Of course. Even in the latter case, we wouldn't stay allies for very long. Exactly. Ooh. It was all too clear that these creatures would kill without a second thought. There were many feet stepping through the mud, many branches snapping in the darkness behind us. Engulfed in the madness that had spread from Ochi and Sakashita, the others had abandoned themselves to the final rule and become corpse eaters. Demons. Reason and morality no longer had any meaning to them. But what was Ochi doing with Sakashita? Were they eating each other or were they eating... Oh, they had a blood orgy, didn't they? Oh, wow. That's probably what happened. Bloody hell. Holy God. Demons. Reason and morality no longer meaning anything to them. In the end, nobody wants to die.
逃げるわよ
Okay. Have we still got the chocolate and the sweets? Please say we do. We fought our way forward through the soft, slushy mulch of decayed leaves, desperately climbing the slope before us. My feet sank deeply into the muddy soil. My legs trembling from malnutrition, tangled awkwardly with every stride. Please let there be no leeches. Our pursuer's eyes glistened in the darkness like pools of oil. Those eyes betrayed no hatred, no anger. They weren't the eyes of people looking at their enemy. They were the eyes of beasts that knew no emotion but hunger. They were looking at their prey. If they catch us, they're going to kill us on the spot. Terror paralyzed my brain, and even focused, the slope would have been difficult to climb. My leg caught in a muddy patch of leaves, and I tumbled down onto the ground. No! No!
Amane, 立ってお願いだから。もういいよ、和樹。一人で逃げて。
No, 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 don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Don't do it. Please don't. My hand shaking pathetically, I lowered my rucksack to the ground, then took out a kitchen knife carefully wrapped in newspaper. What?
私、今ここで死ぬ。
No, don't do it. No. Well, actually, I know that she doesn't die, but at the same time, they'd probably swarm around my corpse. When they found me, that distraction would at least enable Kazuki to escape. No, 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 no. I unwrapped the stainless steel knife from the newspaper with trembling hands, but at the sight of the shining blade, my mind froze with dread. If I stab my neck with this, will I die instantly? I bet it's going to hurt. Oh god, I don't want it to hurt. But as my hands continued their relentless, terrified trembling, Kazuki knelt down beside me and gently wrapped them in her own. What?
その役目は私がやるわ。
What?
私がおとりになると言っているのよ。
Oh no! Before I knew it, Kazuki had smoothly taken the knife from my hand.
和樹が
I was the one who couldn't move. I was the one who'd given up. Why should Kazuki be the one to do this for my sake? It made no sense.
いい、アマネ。よく聞いてちょうだい。
Holding the knife in an underhanded grip, Kazuki lowered her rucksack from her back and pressed it against my chest.
この中に隠しておいた食料と塩が入っているわ。ペース配分を考えてちゃんと計算して消費するのよ。
Oh, you mean like do it like in intervals?
和樹、あなたに預けておいたチョコレートとキャンディーも全部あなたが食べていいわ。それとこれ。
She's literally given herself up. Kazuki reached into the pocket of her skirt and took out a few sheets of paper from a memo pad. She written out instructions?
山を脱出するための方法をメモしておいたから、これをしっかりと読んで諦めずに進みなさい。やだ、和樹、嘘でしょ。どうして私を見捨てるの？
No, she's not.
大丈夫よ。私は死なないわ。いつか必ずまた会えるから。
But really only surprised unless she actually somehow lives miraculously. But I would have many questions. But it seems like she's not good. She wouldn't anyway.
あら、私が今まであなたに嘘をついたことがある？あるんでしょ？発覚していない嘘と真実との違いを述べよ。配点10点。冗談を言ってる場合、和樹が一人で逃げてよ。私はもう疲れちゃったよ。もう無理だよ。いいから行きなさい。私を誰だと思っているの？私に従っていれば何も心配はないわ。ほら、立って走るのよ。和樹、絶対に振り返ってはダメよ。
I'm so
ほら、急いで走りなさい。
Come on, just go! Just go! They say that a person's true nature is revealed only when their back's against the wall. I abandoned Kazuki to save my own skin. Leaving her as a decoy, leaving her to be eaten, I moved my legs furiously, desperate to gain every centimetre of safety I could. There was no doubt in my mind she would die. Kazuki would be the sacrifice, and one cowardly, worthless girl would survive a little longer. Just keep going, god damn it. I was overflowing with guilt. Bitter tears of shame rolled endlessly down my face. Even if I got away, even if I returned alive, this unbearable self-loathing would crush me under its weight. With every step I took, that conviction grew stronger. My legs were leaden underneath me. You absolutely mustn't turn back. She had told me clearly enough, but once at the end I stopped, I looked back. The demons had gathered, the beams from their flashlights dancing through the trees. At the centre of their circle, Kazuki was lying on the ground, pinned down by the things that had been our friends. What? The last time I saw her face, Kazuki wasn't crying. She wasn't screaming. She was glaring resentfully. She wasn't glaring resentfully. She was smiling. She smiled as if to say this was fate. As if to say this was the rule. As if to say it was nothing worth troubling myself over. If Kazuki had screamed for help, if she had cursed me, called me a traitor, I might never have moved from that spot. I might have run back and fought, but Kazuki quietly, peacefully gazed into my eyes, accepting her fate. Oh, freaking hell. I need a moment. I need a moment. What happened over the past 15 minutes? Oh, wow. Amane, listen to me. The creatures in this forest are no longer human beings. They're animals, plain and simple. I stopped looking back. I turned my back on her for the last time and I ran chanting forgive me in my mind like a mantra. Oh Jesus, like a mantra? As the sky grew light with the dawn, I ran desperately, not knowing where my feet were carrying me. I simply fled, pushing through the forest in a frenzy, as if to escape my own terror and guilt. We don't even know what time it is anymore. Oh my god. But... oh my god. I'm sure in the 18 plus patch there would have been way more. I'm sure there would have been. I need to keep going. I need to keep going. We've got to be near the end of how she lived now, right? Surely. How many days has passed since then? I didn't exactly have the leisure, time or composure to write a daily entry in my diary, but I think it had been 5 nights. 5 nights spent relentlessly, mindlessly marching forward through the jungle. Following the instructions Kazuki had written in her note, I walked only by darkness, in order to hide my movements from the ghouls. They were still around? Oh my god. When the sun rose, I hid myself in bushes and tried to sleep. This lasted a few hours at most, and when I woke up from these brief periods of rest, the first order of business was always to peel off the leeches that covered my body. Then throw the fat bloodsuckers into my mouth, crushed them with my teeth, and forced them to give me back my blood. It's like when you eat a mosquito to claim your own blood back. I mean, it is your blood. Kazuki's rucksack contained a small hoard of various snacks and sweets, her secret treasure. Just as I thought, she'd stolen the food from Ozawa's belongings on the very first... She stashed them away since... So she was the thief? Kazuki was the thief the whole time. She was trying to make sure that Amane escaped. Holy god. Since escaping, I hadn't touched those precious snacks. Not even once. If Kazuki were to somehow escape her captors and catch up with me, I intended to give it all back to her. There was real food just inside that bag. The temptation was overwhelmingly powerful. But if I were to yield to my hunger and greedily devour Kazuki's treasure, I'd be admitting I was fundamentally no different from the ravenous ghouls. I couldn't bring myself to do that. When the forest was dry enough to light a fire, I boiled thorn sprouts and chrysanthemums for my meals. There we go. Chrysanthemums. My starvation and exhaustion were now completely by constant terror of the demons that were no doubt pursuing me. My hair had begun to fall out in alopecia came in. I too had been pushed well beyond my limit, and I was about ready to break. Even so, Kazuki had saved my life. I couldn't allow that to become meaningless. I couldn't just give up. She wants you to live! During the daylight hours, I simply laid still and hidden in the bushes, unable to sleep but preserving my energy as best I could. When the day grew dark, I would crawl cautiously out of the undergrowth, then begin the astronomical observation described in Kazuki's notes. The lush canopy of trees above hid much of the sky, rendering it difficult to determine the location of the stars. And as in any forest, the orienting line of which horizon was unclear. I might as well have been able to get a better view by climbing one of the taller trees, but I no longer had the strength to do any such thing. Just how far had I walked? Oh my god, these paces are so slow. Walking meant pushing my way through lush weeds and wild grasses, struggling through thick bushes that obstructed my path. The distance I moved in any given day didn't amount to much. Under one full night's work of hiking through the jungle, I turned back to see if I could get some idea of my progress, only to find that the ridge I had been standing on last night was still visible. I could feel my willpower shriveling inside me. I was going to question where the knife had come from earlier with Kazuki and Amane a second ago. But then I remembered they were the ones in charge of cooking and that lot. So it makes sense that they'd be the ones to use the knife to cut the portions. So it makes sense why they had it. Deciding I could urge myself to no further that day, I collapsed on the spot, hugging Kazuki's rucksack tightly to my body. Her scent had permeated the tough fabric, and when I slept, she appeared in my dreams. Oh. In those dreams, Kazuki said nothing. She stood some 20 paces ahead, silently looking over her shoulder, staring into my eyes. I screamed her name and tried to step forward, but it was frustratingly difficult to move. I shoved my way through thick weeds, my feet sinking into thick mud with every step, ignoring the branches cutting at my cheeks. No matter how desperately I forced myself forward, Kazuki moved away at the same speed. I couldn't catch up with her, no matter how I tried. When I gave up and sank to a halt, Kazuki stopped as well. Again, she gazed back into my eyes. What on earth are you doing all the way back there? She never spoke, but her expression conveyed the words clearly enough. You're subconsciously using her in your sleep to tell you to keep going. Oh wow. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I awoke at the sound of my own sleep talking. I was no longer dreaming of food these last few days. I had come to realize what I wanted more than anything else in the world was no longer food or drink. It was Kazumi Kazuki. Why do you have to hit me in the feels? Can you not hit me in the feels? Please? I don't need this now. I need to power on. Come on. And once again, I walked through the night. As I dragged my heavy legs forward, exhausted and starving, Kazuki came into view a little ways away. She strode slowly ahead through the dark forest. Her back turned to me.
待ってよ、Kazuki.
Is this a survival mechanism that your mind is using right now? Like the desire? As I pursued her, I could see many others further beyond. Vaguely defined figures walked the same path as Kazuki, flickering and melting into each other. I'm just hoping that none of these ghouls actually appear when we're walking. I would imagine they shouldn't be at this moment. I'd imagine so. Because we've already been walking like how far? All wore a familiar school uniform, even in the darkness. I knew them. That one had to be Hiroka. Oh, thank goodness for the guidance. Sakurai. Yep, the further on I can see Sakurai and Komori, right? Many others as well. Sakurai, Ozawa, Okabe, Alione, frolicking around Komori's feet. Yeah, it's Komori. The ones who had already died walked among the trees, shimmering hazily in the night. They want me to go on. That's what's going on in her mind. Is she's unconsciously using them as a guidance. They looked over their shoulders one by one and spoke, "This way." I finally started hallucinating. Guess I'll just be following them now. Have them guide me to heaven. No, would it really be heaven? Well, I've been in hell until now. If they're taking me somewhere else, it's probably heaven, right?
みんな待って、私うまく歩けないよ。置いていかないで。ねえ、みんな。
Come on, I can no longer lift my legs. The world grew cloudy before my eyes. Heavy leaden drowsiness assaulted my mind. Even where I was, what I was doing had begun to grow fuzzy. This episode's been insane. Fucking hell. Shit! Don't do that! With the thought, guess this is as far as I go. I fell hard to my knees, then pitched forward onto the cold earth.
もうダメだ。情けない。私、天国にも行けずに、このままこんな中途半端な場所で死ぬんだ。
We know you get out of here, Amane. We know you don't give up, so come on! As I pressed my face into the ground, my ears began to ring. What? A fairly common phenomenon before passing out. Yeah. I don't like that. It's something like the sound of your own baseline brainwaves. Yes, and I've heard them, and they irritate the hell out of me. Ugh, faint here. And the leeches are going to be all over me again. As the thought ran vaguely through my wobbling head, my ears picked up a noise clearly distinct from that high-pitched tone. What? That's a car! What's that sound? I focused my mind on that strange noise and decided it sounded almost like a car running on an unpaved road. She did it. She found the cars. Yes. Specifically, the sound of tires rolling through gravel. She found a road. And mixed in with that crunching white noise, there was something like the weak whining of a 3-cylinder engine. Oh yeah, she's found a car. She knows what car it probably is. Sounds just like a mini truck. Heaven sent somebody out to greet me? Are angels these days in the habit of picking up the dead in cute little pickups? When the sound past, the ringing in my ears was gone as well. Once more, I pulled my ragged body off the ground. Once more, I forced myself upright, my weary legs trembling with the effort. Did you not realise you just heard a car? She realised, come on, I hadn't realised during the night, but apparently at some point I'd drawn near a road. A real, honest-to-God road. A path human beings travelled. Beyond the thick rows of trees, through the wet, cold dawn air of the forest, I could see the gravelly track stretched out below. This isn't a hallucination, right? Incredulous as I was, I didn't take the time to pinch my cheeks. Half sliding down the muddy slope, I made my way toward the road that lay before me. You've seen it! You've seen it! Yes! Yes! You made it! You made it! It wasn't paved. It wasn't well maintained. But without a doubt, it was a road surfaced by human hands, travelled by human vehicles. My mind whirling, I began to walk unsteadily down the road in the direction I thought the truck had been headed. And before long, I found myself in front of a vast field extending as far as the eye could see. It was full of thousands and thousands of cabbages. We found a farm! I didn't scream with joy at the sight. Without a word, I drew a few slow, shuddering breaths, then plunged into the field, ripping the nearest cabbage from the ground. I sunk my teeth into it ferociously in a frenzy, not bothering to chew. I ate. Just keep going. You did it. Take in that cabbage. You did it. My first thought wasn't I'm saved. It wasn't I can finally go home. There was only one thing in my mind. Eating the cabbages in front of me. Without a drop of seasoning or even a sprinkle of salt. Those cabbages were so delicious my eyes rolled back in my head from sheer ecstasy. Oh, I'm so happy! Yay! I deliriously, frantically, as if possessed, cackling madly, I ate. Laughing in between the spasmodic whimpers that seized my throat, tears pouring down my face. I ate. It was 30 minutes before the farmer's housewife noticed something single-mindedly ripping through the cabbage field like a crazed wild animal. When she ran to tell her husband about the bizarre creature devouring the crops, he ran out with his hunting rifle, only to find a human being. It was another 30 minutes before the ambulance he called arrived. And lying in my hospital bed, I finally told the local police officers who I was, that I had been on a bus that had gone missing nearly 3 weeks before. And so, at the cost of many terrible sacrifices, one pathetic girl crawled her way back to the human world alive. And we're now back to the present. I can't go on for today. That's it for me. No. That's it for me. That's all I could take. Oh wow. Yeah, I'm sorry guys, I don't know what else to say. But that was remarkable. That was insane. But unfortunately, I've got to end this episode here. And I hope you guys enjoy that hell of a backstory right there. Because I'm probably going to keep recording the Fruit Grisaia like this, no face cam. It'd probably be much easier to do that as well. So, bloody hell. I think I need to take a break for a minute, so there's only one thing I can really say. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like if you did, subscribe if you want any more from me. And I'll see you in the next video. So guys, there will indeed be more quality next time. I'm about to take a freaking 2-hour nap.